This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. As you can see, we've been very lucky this afternoon and we found our female leopard from this morning again, still tucked away in the same tree. It's a wonderful day here. It's a very cool breeze. And we would like to welcome you aboard to your very own digital safari, live from the African wild. As you can see, we've got this beautiful female leopard. Spot to spend this very cool afternoon. It's a slight little breeze blowing through and you can see she's fast asleep at the moment. My name is Kim and behind the camera we have Craig and we're going to be with you this afternoon. So those of you watching this morning, you were very lucky to see this female. And it's actually quite an interesting story. For the past few days, she's been around the same area. She seems to have found the perfect spot. She's actually killed a number of impala. It's now become the impala lambing season, and she's certainly taken advantage of that. And in a thicket very close by, she's got not one or two or three, but 4 carcasses of one impala ewe and 3, I actually think it was last 4 impala lambs that we counted. And if you actually have a look at the back of this tree, I've noticed for the first time there's an impala leg sticking out and it looks pretty big to me, so most likely another impala ewe that's tucked away in the back of this tree. And I wonder if that's something that she did this afternoon. When we came here towards the end of the show, we came looking for her again, and she had left this tree where she'd been staying the whole morning, and we didn't find any sign of her around her carcasses. And there was some impala not far from here that she managed to probably be able to see from the top of this tree. And I think she maybe went and took her chances and managed to grab another one of them. So she's sort of in the perfect spot, you know. She doesn't have to go anywhere. She doesn't have to go out hunting. All the prey seems to be coming to her. And in between catching and increasing her little body count under the thicket in front of us, she's just resting. You can see she's completely fast asleep. There's nothing that's worrying her. She's so safe up in this tree. And like we were discussing, it's the perfect tree because it's got really comfortable branches. There's no smaller branches sticking out from the inside, so she's got these lovely round branches on which to lie. But it's quite thick on the outskirts, so she's hidden really well in here. I think we're going to stick around and see what she gets up to and just take this beautiful sighting in.
Talking of perfect spots, it seems that the Duke of Djuma has also found a perfect spot. Semi-shaded on the cool ground on this very humid, hot, sticky day. It feels like there's no oxygen to breathe. And of course, we've got a very smelly carcass behind us. It was a carcass that was in fact killed by Klalamba, the usual story. Tingana seems to follow her around and steal her food. Why not? My name is Lauren and I do have Gert on camera today, and we're obviously sitting here with a very hot Tingana. I am sweating, so you can only imagine how he is feeling. He's got a lot of extra moisture hanging down from his mouth, saliva, and it's not the best visuals we have of him, but the more moisture in the mouth, the better. So dry mouth is not going to be good on a situation like that. The more moisture, the more heat he loses, the more heat he draws away from the body. So he's panting heavily. And of course, panting is just breathing. It's nothing more than breathing, but at a sort of more rapid rate. and he's trying very, very hard to cool down. Hello, Tingana. Now, many of you may know him as the sausage. Many of you may just know him as Tingana. He's got many nicknames as Cat, and the sausage is very full. He's done well, and he's back in what used to be the core area of his territory. Now, territories are not just random. They're not all equal. The whole area is not all equal. It's split into different areas. There's a core area, the secondary areas, the tertiary areas. Now, of course, it's not marked out for us to see, but the area that we are in right now was very much the Duke's core territory. But I think from his behaviour and his movements, it's safe to say Tingana is very much nomadic now. At 14 years old, nomadic's probably the way to go. Save your energy. You don't need to sort of use up all your energy on patrols, sawing, scent marking. He still needs to urinate and defecate, of course, but not in the territorial manner. Saves a lot of energy, steals kills from his daughter, and go wherever he pleases. So we're going to sit here a little bit longer and enjoy some time with Tingana.
Jumbo, everyone. Another wonderful afternoon. We are here live from the Masai Mara, and I have a big family of baboons. It's a troop of baboon. This is a troop we know. It resides here at Shienis Laga. Remember, Laga is a wash-off by water over a period of a long time, becomes a seasonal stream when there is water, and they're very, very busy enjoying the afternoon out, eating grass. Jumbo, I am Isaac, and on camera I have Bungei. My mission this afternoon is to try and find the oinos, see if we can find those tiny little cubs, see what's happening. Apart from that, anything else is very much welcome. The weather this afternoon in the Masai Mara is quite pleasant. We just had a huge rainstorm from around 3:30 our time here, and now it is perfect. It looks like we might get rain later, but the temperature is around 24 degrees Celsius. And I have olive baboons in front of me. The kind of behavior they're portraying is normal for this time of day. Grooming, socializing, strengthening bond, and getting ready for bed. This time of the year, there is food in plenty. Grass galore, grass buffet everywhere. All types of grasses are here. Seeds, usually makes up a big percentage of their diet. Fruits, and also insects, from millipedes, spiders, small bird eggs, and even meat. This is an animal that is quite smart and can be very, very protective. Those big boys there you see can be very, very, defensive if anything goes to attack the little ones, especially humans. They will come for you. They have canines, very long, almost the size of a leopard. Always nice to watch the little ones because they're very, very playful. And the play is very important because it does strengthen their muscles, improves their climbing and fighting skills. Very, very important. They're usually very playful, those young ones. There is one very young one, that one running, maybe only about 4 days old. Looks like it's a lovely spot for me to stop. So I'll stay here for a little bit. Let's find out what's in another location.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to you in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We are live with Olalashe. He's sleeping not quite where we left him today. But my name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. It's a nice spot for this lion. See how green it has turned to be because of the short rains. Now, previously in the morning we had Olalashe, Kijana, and about 6 of the Olololo lionesses. So 2 of them joined in and became about 8 in number. It's quite a long time ever since I saw the Olololos in that big number. Because Olalashe has become their dominant pride male together with Kijana, it seems like all the females within the Ololo pride are going to join in together and come back to the formal big pride. It will be exciting news because always lionesses would want dominant male to control them, especially now that most of them are pregnant. It is so important because it's assured of security when they have calves, because they have protection from Olalashe and Kijana. So some of the lionesses were mating with Kijana and Olalashe, so that's a good sign, because both these lions will think that the calves are theirs. So lionesses have that intelligence of mating with 2 or multiple males within a pride, so that every male is assured of paternity. I'm going to just hang around with him for a little while I check around to see if the other lions are within. So taking you over to another live location.
From a flat male lion to a very sleepy leopardess, we're also sticking with our leopard for a little while. You can see that she is quite comfortable, but we've had a bit of movement. She's starting to get sick of her one position, so she keeps sort of repositioning. You can imagine it's not the easiest place to feel very comfortable lying on a whole lot of branches. And also if you watch how her stomach's going up very quickly, rising and falling, she's incredibly full, which I'm sure is adding to the problem. Having a very full round belly, not easy to position it so comfortably on a very round sort of branch. And as I was saying earlier, she's quite a young leopard. I actually know this leopard really well. We call her the Ntabankosi female. And she's probably one of the favorite leopards for the rangers to find. She was born when I was doing my training here, so I'm especially fond of her. It's been wonderful to watch her grow up. You can see she's still got a very pink nose, one of the ways we age leopards. But the best way is actually to age them looking at the condition of their ears. And as you can see, her ears are in perfect condition. No cuts or scratches. So that's another way that you age them. Also, general condition, beautiful, pristine coat, no scars across her nose. So all of this tells us she's quite young. She's actually approaching about 2.5 years now.
Always nice to hear about leopard. Very beautiful, super predator. My baboons are still busy enjoying grass. When eating, they use both hands. When you look closer, sometimes it looks like a picking machine. They pick with both legs, both hands, filling their mouths. And it's amazing to learn that they have cheek pockets, baboons, that sometimes when they know they're in a rush or there's competition of something they're eating, they'll feel the cheek pouches, which when full, they can actually fill up their tummies. So it's an adaptation they've learned. This is an animal that can live up to around 30 years and even plus in captivity. And apart from, insects, grass, they will eat also meat, they will eat mushrooms, they will eat lichens. So their diet is quite wide. Their eyesight is amazing, hearing and smell very, very good. And females carry their young for almost 5.5 months. Those two looks like they're really playful. We cannot see everything, but they might come out into the open. We might see them play. While feeding like this or foraging, there's always a sentry somewhere watching for danger, and I can see one. He's quite a distance. He's usually somewhere high, and in case of any threat, he is the one to bark, and that call usually alerts everybody to sudden danger. He has moved a little bit inside the bush, but he was the sentry from that side. There is more sentries positioned in different areas around here, and that is why they're so comfortable, they're so playful, and they have no worry in the world. Remember, this is a primate. Johan, how old can a baboon get? Well, here in the wild, around 30, but in captivity, I'm sure it can live a little bit more. You know, that easy life, carrots, cabbages, lettuce, I'm sure it can live a little bit more. So around 30 here in the wild. And we rarely get to see old ones. I think nature takes its course. Either they are taken by predators like hyena, leopard, or even lion. So we rarely get to see old ones. I have seen a handful of them over my years that I've been here. They are very, very good climbers, baboons, and also they are very smart. In an open area where there's no trees, if you are driving past and they don't want you to see them, I've seen them try to hide by lying flat on the ground. That is an adaptation, and tells me that they're smart enough to know that you might not see them. Yeah, very playful little ones. Those tails, they might be carved, but they can straighten them when they want. There is no specific reason why they fold them. It's just normal for them to fold them like that. Very, very busy. Look at how they pick up the grass with both hands. Yeah, and they can be very, very vocal. When time comes, they will head to one of their favorite roosting trees. In an area, they might have 4 or 5, and they decide on where to be at different times of the year. Of course, they don't stay very long without going back to one of their roosting trees so that it's not taken by anybody else. And here tells me there is one very, very close. I've come to learn that we have around this area, maybe around 4 troops, each ranging from around 20 to 60. This is an animal that is only very afraid of lions. Cheetahs have no chance with baboons. Leopards risk but they do kill baboons. But lions is their enemy number one. Wild dogs have no chance to kill baboon and even hyenas. So they're quite safe. Well, looks like they're getting comfortable with me, so I'm gonna try and get a little bit closer. Let's take you to another live location.
Oh, I think Tungana heard the director say baboons there. Baboons. Leopards and baboons are not known to have a good relationship. Leopards regularly kill baboons when they can, and baboons have actually been known to take leopard cubs and go up the trees with them and kill them. So there's not a good relationship there. It's so good to see the Duke. We went through a long period of time of not seeing him, and of course, everyone feared the worst. But he's absolutely fine. He's in great condition. He's old, but he's in great condition, and he's clearly thriving. I stand firm that it was the movements of Mulwati that pushed him slightly more north, and was the final straw in making him come nomadic. Although he's in great condition, he probably couldn't compete with a leopard like Mulwati. So nomadic has not been solitary. He's solitary, as all leopards are, but he's nomadic, meaning he's not a territorial holder anymore. Are you, boy? But he'll still mate with all the females. He was really recently seen mating with Luna and Nsele. So he'll still mate with the females, but he just won't advertise his presence. He won't go on patrols. But I believe Klangula is also in Buffelshoek, so I think we'll stay with Tungana a little bit, and then I will go and see the other handsome male slightly north of us. Now, this used to be Tungana's core area, as I mentioned, so he will know this area like the back of his hand, or his paw, should I say. He knows how to survive here. But just last week, he was seen on Arathusa. Just before that, he was seen on Cheetah Plains. And for those of you who are not familiar with the area, that's okay. But these properties are in complete opposite directions of one another, and they're very far from here. That's one of the main factors that's contributing to the theory that he's nomadic. He's a wanderer. He knows how to survive out here. He's a big boy. He knows where all the females are. He also knows who his enemies are. And he knows who his daughter is, most important. Now, if Kalamba came into Eastris, he definitely would mate with her if presented the chance. But for now, he's definitely following her for food.
Good afternoon, and welcome to a very hot and beyond Ngala. And this afternoon, we are exploring the southern side of Ngala, and we are trying to see if we might have any luck with the lesser seen cats. Cheetah. It's very humid here. It was a little bit overcast, but the clouds have moved off, and now there's still clouds, but it's opened up and it's very, very hot. So myself, I'm Yapi, and behind the camera we have Sebastian. And this far we haven't had any luck. In fact, we haven't seen anything really. But this particular section of Ngala is a lot more open than the rest of the reserve. We're further away from the Timbavati River, which means we don't have the riverine forest here. Although the plains have got some small dry riverbeds running through them, and there are denser areas down there. Just have a look at that beautiful view we see. And the amazing thing about this is from here one would be able to scout if there might be a cheetah out on top of a termite mound trying to get a vantage point. And from what I heard, this part of Ngala used to be a lot more open with a lot less trees around. And on a good day, we see a lot of general game as well as elephant in this area. And then there are some large watering holes nearby where we have large herds of buffalo coming to drink. But another thing that's quite interesting about this area, straight up ahead from us, there's a very big tree. And that tree is a mupani tree. Now, I have heard rumors that it might be the southernmost mupani tree. And I guess that would be in Africa. But personally, I don't know. I haven't seen mupani further south than Ngala, within the Kruger Park area. And I would like to know, even if one of our viewers might know anything more about that.
Hot, hot, hot. And even more hot as we watch these elephants cooling off. Stuffy, a little bit clouds coming over. There's gonna be probably some rain this evening, I hope anyway. But who knows what else might come down to this waterhole. It's lovely. We're gonna sit here. We're in the shade right now. We're feeling very lucky to be witnessing this. As always, in Ndlovu Dam, providing us with just spectacular fun all day long. Today there's been so many elephants at the waterhole. Hi, I'm Mike. You're joining me and BK behind the camera at Eco Training's Pridelands Conservancy, where we've literally been watching elephants all day, and a couple of buffalo, and some warthogs, and a few other animals, spending the whole morning and afternoon just bathing in the mud. As you can see, the waterhole at the moment, it's actually, the level of the waterhole is going down very, very quickly. And all the edge of it is turning into this mud, and so it's becoming a favorite place for buffaloes and elephants to come and wallow. As you can see, it's thick and gloopy, and we're not seeing so many antelope anymore coming down to the waterhole because it is being fouled by the elephants and the buffaloes. But anyone that can mud wallow and enjoys that to cool off is coming here in abundance. Today I haven't seen a single impala or a giraffe or a kudu come down to this waterhole. And they're more likely going to be going to Leopard Dam, just across the other side of the reserve, where it's a lot cleaner. Look at these three actually playing in the deep end of the pool. And they're the young. One of these elephants is actually missing a piece of the end of its trunk. I think it's the one that's in the middle there, if I'm correct. There was one a bit earlier who was missing a piece of the end of its trunk, which is very interesting. It seems to be doing fine with it. These are all males. They seem to be doing fine. It does not seem to be struggling at all. Maybe it needs to splash itself a little bit more with mud because it doesn't have that little finger-like septum on the end there, which helps to pick up the mud and fling it onto its body. Yeah, there you can just see the trunk there, just in the front. Oh, let's just put it under now. But when it lifts its trunk up the next time, you might just see that it doesn't have those finger-like projections. So that one there does have them, and the one next to it, hopefully it'll lift up. Oh, there you go. Look at that. It's just the hole where the nostrils will come out. So I don't know how that might have happened. We were talked about whether crocodiles would attack elephants in the water. Now, I don't think there's any crocodiles in this water, but a young elephant, a baby elephant, might just be grabbed by a crocodile and it could lose the end of that trunk, just as we see right now. Other things could cause it as well. Injuries, sometimes man-made injuries can cause something like that. There is something called poaching, which happens regularly in Africa. That's people illegally hunting animals, and mostly it's just for the smaller antelope, but of course an animal like an elephant might accidentally put its trunk in something meant for a smaller animal, which is not so pleasant. But who knows how this happened? Maybe a crocodile. There's a few interesting birds fluttering around the waterhole now, though it's not so easy to catch them on film because they're on the move quite a lot. But if we see one interesting one, I'd like to show you it. It was Yellow with a black head. It was a black-headed oriole. I know you see them quite often, but it's flown off now, but it's such a beautiful bird. And they're very vocal at the moment, because it's the breeding season. There's another bird called a Eurasian golden oriole. Have you seen that one? Like a black-headed oriole, except without a black head, instead it's got black wings. That is a gorgeous bird. I saw one yesterday. Hoping to get one on film today. Get to spot it again. So I have no idea what the relationship is between these elephants. They're all males, I know that much. They could even be family members. They could be brothers or cousins. They're all fairly young. They all came from different directions as well. So they might even be from different families altogether. But they can communicate over vast distances. So who knows? Maybe they're just good old friends.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Tswalu. My name is Richard Satere, and behind the camera we got Dave. And we got a lovely afternoon, almost like I'll say 30% cloud cover, all clear. We're not going to have rain. Here we got tracks of lion, which is the male, you can see right here. And then we're going to be trying to see if we can find the lion this afternoon. I'm going to take you to another location.
Well, someone has gone flat cat back to sleep. Isn't he beautiful against the greenery? Now, I think we'll leave him for a bit. The Talamatis killed a giraffe calf last night, and Klangula is on a kill up in Buhusuk as well. So we'll have a little bit of a scratch around there, and then we will come back later when it's cooler, and hopefully our big banana here, Genghis Khan, is a little bit more awake. He's full and hot. Now, because he's still mating, he was really seen mating not so long ago with Nsele, he still can produce viable, fantastic offspring. The females will still go to him, even although he's not a territorial male. Females, of course, mate with many different males in order to try and confuse paternity. It's the safest option for their offspring. Mate with as many males as you can, and therefore you can ensure that they will all think that they are the father. And then therefore they will not kill the offspring. As much as I love Tingana, and many of you know I love him so dearly, yes, I do, that he has killed young leopardesses before. And I mean young as in not territorial and not anywhere near ready to come into estrus. And there, you would call them sub-adults, I guess, and he has killed them. And that's because they're in his territory and they're not his. So although they're not very, very small cubs, they're still young leopards. And Tingana was responsible for their death, which sounds rather sad, but that's how it is. And, oh, bless you. Oh, bless you. But that's how it is in the world of leopards. You cannot invest in offspring that is not your own. You have to ensure your bloodline. So by him killing younger leopards, possibly maybe 2 years or younger, 18 months, that's an effort to try and get the female to come into estrus again because she's lost cubs or sub-adults. And therefore, he would maybe have the chance to mate with that female, and the next litter would be his, ensuring his bloodline continues. The predator bloodline. No organism, no species really is about the species. It's about the individual. The survival of your own genetics and your own bloodline. Okay, so I do think we are going to let Tingana snooze, and we're going to send you over to Tswalu enjoying a silent moment at the waterhole.
Go ahead, Matt. Yeah, FM, make your way as a second. Welcome back, everyone. Sorry about that. She's just having... Sorry, everyone. I've just got to do a quick radio chatter. Now you can make your way. Some of the rangers just trying to figure out which way they're going to go so they don't bump into us, watching this beautiful leopard. We've actually been watching her. It's been quite funny. There's a few ants that seem to be walking past her face and making her twitch every now and then. And it's starting to drizzle a little bit, so every now and then you see her sort of scrunch her face up a little bit. Maybe 1 or 2 raindrops have made their way through that dense canopy of leaves. So again, she's picked her spot pretty much perfectly. And she's readjusted, and actually what's so sweet is how comfortable she seems to be right now. If you look, she's tucked both her feet under her head. She's positioned it really, really nicely, is completely relaxed. And she's actually hooked her arm under the branch there. And then if you look right by her belly, you actually see that she's hooked her belly into that little sort of curve of the one branch, which I can imagine has been one of the reasons why she's been struggling to... Oh, look how sweet that is. Just extending that arm there a little bit more. Yeah, so that round belly, one of the reasons she's been struggling to get comfortable up until now. You know, quite a difficult thing to position, and I think that sort of curved branch has just given it a nice little bit of support. Getting another lovely readjustment now. What's wonderful is to note now, if you have a look at the side of her neck, you can actually see that there's sort of a collar of black spots. And if you look at them really carefully, all those spots around the head, you actually stop seeing the rosette pattern, and you can start to see it slowly growing from the side of her neck, and then you see that really prominent black sort of collar of black spots that you'll see on every kind of leopard. It's quite a common thing. And then if we have a look at the back of her ears, you can see it's got a black rim and then a white sort of patch and then black again. So that's one of the things when this female has cubs eventually, it's going to be her follow me sign for when they're following her through some long grass. Something that's difficult for them to actually keep an eye on her. You know, you can see how well camouflaged she is. So almost all animals have a break in camouflage, generally at the back of their bodies, because when they have in the front of their bodies, they're always, you know, trying to sneak up to their prey, be really camouflaged. But at the back, they'll have some sort of break in their camouflage so that when their cubs are following them through some grass or they need to run quickly and keep up with their mother very quickly, they've got something to sort of lock onto. It's the same for the tip of her tail, which is that little white tip. It's also something that they lock onto. I'm sure you've seen follow me signals in a lot of other animals. You know, the classic ones that spring to mind are the white on the back of a waterbuck's bum, you know, that little white circle. Even the impala, that black little M, those 3 stripes. And then black on the back of their ears as well. Also lion's ears, they've got that black little spot on the back of their ears and the black tip on their tail. And then warthogs being one of my all-time favorites, those little aerials, those tails that go right up into the air. Now, what's lovely to see, you can hear the vehicles moving in the background, and you can see how relaxed this female is. She is just so content, not even noticing the vehicles moving around her. So I think we might stay here maybe for a little bit longer, see if she gets up and moves. And if not, we might head off and see what else we can find this afternoon.
We are seeing something that it's so cute. All these tiny little baby elephants are following this large one, who's probably the mother. It's a big family, into the water, and it's quite muddy and it's quite deep. I really wonder how these little ones are going to make it in there. That's amazing. So they just arrived about 10 minutes ago, or maybe less, maybe 5 minutes ago, and they first had a great mud wallow, and now they're all making their way into the water. Now that the bulls are less active and there's less sort of aggression around, they can really make their way into the water and enjoy it. So now there's a little sandbank there, you see, so the little one is able to get its head above water again. Oh, that's amazing. How cute is that? Look how tiny those two are. So I'm really not certain that these are all from the same mother, because they certainly could be, but wow, she's been busy then, and she looks like she's pregnant again. You see how wide she is. I sort of have to think that this might be from 2 different mothers, but maybe this is like an aunt, and that's why they feel comfortable enough to be so close. They've probably moved closer to the center where maybe the water is a little easier to drink, or a little cleaner, potentially, away from the mud. Oh, it certainly doesn't look like they're drinking, though. They look like they're having a good old splashing session. Kind of seems like they did it the wrong way around. Mud wallow and then a bath. Surely be the other way around. Cool down and then cover yourself in mud before heading out. Ah, they're still young and they're learning. They'll never listen to the advice anyway. Man, that is cute. That is the cutest thing ever. Look at that little thing. I reckon I could pick that one up and put it in my pocket. BK, I think that's the only solution to this. And there's a big one floating in front there. One of the bigger elephants. Also a female, it looks like. It's got quite a angular head. Might be also one of the mothers, potentially. I don't know. Oh no, not in the water. I guess they're only following the example of the older elephants. This is what I was talking about earlier. The elephants are fouling the water hole. They play in it and they spend so much time there that they inevitably defecate and urinate in it, which is eventually having an effect on whether the water is very clean. Rolling Rob, I think that they definitely do enjoy playing in the water as much as the males do, or at least they enjoy being in the water as much as the males do. It's difficult for them because they've got these youngsters, and the males in the sort of playful state that they're in it's very likely that they could end up hurting the youngsters if they come too close. So you can see the female is sort of keeping her distance and a watchful eye. She's not getting too deep in the water. Oh my goodness, BK, check that one out. Look at that one there, is about to roll onto its back. Oh no, it's just getting up now. This elephant is literally working itself into the mud to cover every single crease. So this one's also, I think this one might be one of the mothers because she's lactating quite heavily. She's got a lot of milk in her mammaries between her front legs. So I definitely think that she's another mother, but as you can see, she's taking a bit of a time out, a bit of time for herself to enjoy it. It's like a spa day. Auntie can look after the kids for a while. Very important. Look what she's doing. She's kicking with her back legs, kicking with her front legs, just trying to churn the mud up as much as possible. That's incredible. I suppose she doesn't get too much time away from the youngsters, so any moment that she can must be enjoyed to the fullest. That's amazing. So now that she's had a good mud wallow, it looks like she's going to probably come towards where her family is and all the rest of the youngsters. Oh, it's a bit slippery though. I think she's... Oh no, that was amazing. Majestic creatures, elephants. Absolutely majestic. Now she's throwing a tantrum. Oh, glorious. I don't know, what do you think? I think that thing slipped over.
Yeah.
That definitely just slipped right over into the mud. But no one's judging you. It's all fun and games. So definitely heading over to where the rest of the family are, also having a good old bathing session. Everyone's doing it. So I think you can see quite clearly, Rolling Rob, the females and the youngsters enjoy the water just as much as the males do. They do have to be wary though, because with all the excitement the males might try and come closer. Remember, these young males are not that big yet, and they've all been moved away from the herd by females. Rosalind, elephants learn to walk immediately. They are born precocial, which basically means ready to go. So it might take them, a little while to become steady on their feet, but within an hour or two, the elephant youngster will be able to stand up on wobbly legs and move about. It's not quite as quick as something like an impala. An impala lamb must learn to walk within 5 to 10 minutes of being born. Otherwise, it risks being eaten by hyenas, lions, and leopards straight away. An elephant at least has the protection of its herd, but they are very mobile. They'll get on with the day. They'll have to move. They have to eat. And so if the youngsters can't stand up, the mother will stay with it. But she can't just leave it lying on the ground. It needs to be able to get up and move. So within a couple of hours, a young elephant will be able to move around. It's quite spectacular for an animal that weighs, over 100 kilograms at birth. So that's called precocial, meaning that they're born well developed and basically able to move around. Something like a lion, which is a predator, can stash its cubs somewhere in a thicket. Their youngsters are born altricial, meaning that they are very underdeveloped. They can't look after themselves, they can't move, they can't do anything. So I was mentioning earlier, so these young bulls have been moved out of the herd because they started to get into the phase called must. Once they reach their puberty, let's say, probably around the mid-teens to early 20s, they reached puberty. It's different for each elephant, they're all individual. But once they did, they became into must, which is this higher testosterone state. And when they get into must, I was actually researching this today, they can have up to 60 times more testosterone than normal. So testosterone is the male hormone for aggression. And so with 60 times more testosterone, that's likely to get into a big fight. And some elephants even have up to 140 times more testosterone when they're in must. So you can imagine these females will be very wary about these young males around their youngsters. Because if they're in any way close to their must period, which happens periodically every year, they're likely to end up causing injury to the babies. So the mother there watching over, well actually that's auntie, watching over the youngsters, making sure that everyone is calm and paying attention and behaving themselves.
One lucky hornbill managed to get its lunch. Oh, actually, it's almost dinner time here. Late lunch, shall we say. There is a frog, or what used to be a frog, in this southern ground hornbill's mouth. But we've been following it for quite some time now, and for some reason, it's not eating it. It just seems to be holding on to it very preciously. It's definitely a frog. You really can't mistake that. And ground hornbills are notorious for eating anything. Oh, want to be a little bit higher. Okay. I think there's something dangling from your mouth also. A little blade of grass there. I don't know why it's holding on to it. We're seeing southern ground hornbills. There's also northern ground hornbills around a lot at the moment. They're becoming quite common here. But actually, the species is listed as vulnerable by the IUCN. So although we are very lucky to see them, the species is not doing so well as a whole. This frog's not doing so well either. Aren't they gorgeous? They're actually about the size of a turkey. A turkey-sized bird. When you see them from far away, they have such a large size. They're obviously related to the red-billed and the yellow-billed hornbills. But they're so much larger, maybe times 10. Oh, we're going to take off. Momzilla. What a great name. You're saying perhaps it's keeping it for its kids. Possibly, however, I only saw 2 on approach. The other one was behind us. I haven't seen any juveniles, and I'll quickly show you how I know this. The juveniles do look different. I'm just going to open my book. I finally found my bird book, which is great news. So just quickly up here, you can see the female has a blue patch on her throat when she's an adult, when she's sexually mature. Now, the male has no blue patch, so they look very similar. You have to get a close look to be able to see this blue patch. And then when you look here, the juveniles, believe it or not, have a yellow face. It takes a while to turn red, so they look completely different. And of course, you can see the size. So I don't see any juveniles around, but possibly I could be missing it, Mumzilla. Maybe it's just keeping it a little snack for later. I like to do that. You never know when you're going to get hungry. I love seeing them perched up in the trees like this. That beak can do some damage. Their diet's very broad. From reptiles, amphibians. Elizabeth, you are saying you think it's a present for his lovey. You have already identified this hornbill, which is very impressive and possible. Although I do see a blue patch, I'm afraid, Elizabeth, which means it's a female, but maybe you are right and she is giving him a present. Maybe they've had a bit of a domestic and she's trying to say sorry. But for whatever reason, she's not eating the frog. Tristan at large, you're saying it's a warning to other frogs. That is true. It's definitely a warning. You don't want to be like this frog. It's a warning what not to do. Do not try this at home. And it's back on the ground where it's most comfortable. Ground hornbills like to be on the ground. And hopefully it will eat that frog. She will eat that frog. Did you see that blue throat patch? It's quite easy to identify when you get a really close look, but from far away, it's not easy at all. But in order to catch something else, Mrs. Hornbill, you're going to have to swallow that one. So we are going to head into Buffelshoek now, and you are going to head to Trishala with some weavers.
I hope you saw that little movement there. Oh, look at her. She's just still trying to find a comfy spot, and she's now decided that she hasn't quite found it yet. Oh, look at that beautiful yawn. Such a treat that as we came back, she just started giving us a little bit of movement. I'm hoping she gives us a look. She's got the most beautiful green eyes, this young female leopard. You've been watching her this whole time. She really hasn't moved much, but now suddenly you can see she's starting to get uncomfortable, starting to get up. And I don't think the position she's found now is particularly comfortable. She's got absolutely nothing supporting her neck. So I'm sure we might see a little bit more movement now. Grant, you can take standby 1. Brendan and Zandri are making their way. I'll make my way out of here as soon as Brendan arrives.
Okay, copy, thank you.
Sorry, just had to let some of the rangers know what's happening. We're getting a few of our vehicles coming out of our lodge. And of course, they're all very keen to come and have a look at this beautiful leopard. What's lovely is you can see that undercoat of hers now. We were talking a bit about the spots earlier and how they change at different parts of her body. And you can see that beautiful white that's really under her belly. Sometimes the way you spot leopards, if they're lying with their bellies exposed, that white's quite prominent. And as you could see again, it was just solid black spots on that white bit, not this rosette pattern that covers her back. It's that rosette pattern that actually makes them have the most amazing camouflage. Leopards are incredible in that they are so reliant on this camouflage, and they're so aware of how camouflage they are, that often if you're walking close to them, they'll actually rather slink away into the shadows and watch you than try and run away, because they know that their camouflage is very good. What makes them such efficient hunters, they're very, very quiet animals, very stealthy, and of course they can get really close to their prey by blending in beautifully with the leaf litter on the ground, the shadows that come through grass. And even in this tree, you'll see, if you look at it from far, you can see like shadows being cast, with a little bit of light coming through the back. And that rosette pattern actually blends in beautifully with it from a distance. So it's a really effective camouflage that they've got. What's lovely to see is her legs dangling from front and the back. Crafty Stash, firstly, I love your name. That is fantastic. And it's a good question. So there's going to be a number of things that are going to feed on those carcasses. Now, she's probably going to eat the most of that meat, and I actually thought that they would already have been scavenged by something last night, but she's managed to hold on to them, and that's surprising because most of them actually aren't in a tree. There is that one that we pointed out that actually I do think is a little bit older than I thought initially, but what will happen is things like hyena will find the carcasses, and then they will feed on most of the remaining meat and the bones. Other things like jackal will come and scavenge. It's very unlikely in Phinda that we're going to get vultures that are going to feed on that meat because, you know, we've got a very thick reserve in terms of our tree. We've got a large amount of tree canopies and thicker areas, so it's difficult for the vultures to spot carcasses, especially of those of leopards, because they're always hidden in thickets, so it's unlikely that the vultures will get to them. And then a large amount of insects. You know, we've got a lot of dung beetles that have come back during the summer times, and a lot of dung beetles also feed on carrion, so they will help to sort of break down the carcasses. Various beetles, then also flies will lay their larvae in there. So there's a lot of things that are going to disintegrate that meat and actually make those carcasses resemble very old carcasses. Within about a week, you'll actually be surprised at how old carcasses can look. And then over time, the bones of those carcasses are going to get scattered by other animals. And that's not only hyena, that's things like warthog, giraffe, a lot of the antelope. They'll actually pick up those bones and chew on them and suck on them, because they lack phosphates in their diets. So by sucking on those bones, they can increase their phosphate levels, and then they'll drop those bones around the reserve. So those of you who've been on safari, I'm sure you've noticed little bones lying all over the place, and that's just because exactly what's going to happen here. Those bones from that carcass are going to get fed on and just dropped as those animals are walking and chewing on them. And then something else will pick it up and drop it a bit further away, and eventually leaving all those bones to be scattered. Now, a large amount of her carcasses that she has caught are those impala lambs, and because they've still got such tiny little bones, she will actually manage to feed on most of them. In fact, what we saw of the one carcass was pretty much just the skin, so I think she's managed to eat most of the bones, most of the meat, and really feed on almost all of those little bits. So most of it's going to be taken away by her as well. But a really good question. Fiona, that is also a very good question, and it does vary. Now, she's going to gorge herself on as much as she can of those impala, and you know, a fully grown impala she'll probably be able to feed on for about 2 or 3 days. So, you know, she'll probably eat about 20 to 30 kilograms of meat per day, feed on that for about 2 or 3 days, and she's going to be continually digesting that, but that will suffice her for the rest of the week, you know. But then again, leopards being opportunistic hunters, and as we've seen now, she's got, you know, 5 different kills. So just because she's fed and she's got food available doesn't mean that she's going to stop hunting. If she sees an opportunity to catch an impala or something else that's close by and she thinks she's got a high chance of success, she's going to take that chance. So even though, she'll be digesting, and a meal like this can keep her happy for the next 4 days, 5 days, she actually will probably hunt a lot sooner than that, and possibly even with the full belly and with plenty of meat remaining. So what we're going to do now is we're going to leave her because she does seem very sleepy. I don't think she's going to do too much. And there's a few other rangers who would love to come and show their guests this wonderful sighting. And we're going to go and see if we can find some other animals for you this afternoon.
Well, here we are with a lot of elephants. And these two are young bulls, sizing one another. Normal for that age, about 9 to 12. They're always very playful, can be very aggressive towards one another. They are part of one big extended family, and it's one big herd, as you can see, dotted inside those shrubs. This is one of the kind of habitats that you will find elephants. We call it wooded savanna, a mixture of plenty of trees and grass. That's a liliphant, a very small one, only a couple of days old, I would say, very, very small, maybe a week. Look at that, very, very small. We are seeing more and more of these youngsters, which is very, very good. It means that the population is increasing and all is well with our elephants. This is the African elephant, found in East Africa, parts of Sudan, Chad, and most places all the way to Southern Africa. Some parts of West Africa, it has been wiped out. Yes, those are part of the extended family. And they are doing very well here in Demara. It looks like there's a small gathering there. Communication. Yeah, one of the females is not very happy. The shaking of the head doesn't mean that they have a headache, means that, no, they're not happy. It's the first warning they always show, or first warning of many, even to us. That is the first one. They're irritated, they shake the head. Over here, the grass this time of the year is very soft, and they're really, really enjoying it. And that's why they've come out into the open plains to fill up their stomachs that can take up to a quarter of grass in a day. Elephant is water dependent. They need water, but they have been known to adapt and live in very arid areas. So they are well adapted to living in harsh conditions also, and where there is no water, they can travel very long distances in search of water. I have an idea to move closer to this beautiful big herd, and while I do that, let's take you for a silent moment with Trishala. Welcome back to the Mara. There's two elephant bulls here, and it seems like they're grazing peacefully. It rained just about an hour ago, so there's lots of water in the grass. As you can see, his trunk, on the lower end of his trunk, very deep. It looks a little bit wet because of the moisture and the wetness of the grass. Lots of mud on his back. I'm sure he passed over at a place where he mud wallowed, throwing mud on his back to cool off. But it's a nice temperature to actually come out and graze here. You can see a topi in the background. Scanning out because the topi is by himself. So definitely bird lover, how much water do elephants drink per day? I would say they will drink about, let's say, 100 liters in a day. But elephants are known to drink up to about 170 liters at one go. So because we have plenty of water here, so they go to drink twice a day. So I would say they don't drink as much, 170 every sitting. So they'll drink about maybe 50 in the morning and then later on 50. So I'll say maybe in a day they can drink about 100 liters. So these two bulls have formed a bachelor herd. I can see way over in the swamp there's two more. So always bulls in the bachelor herd walk together. Sometimes they can separate, but they always congregate back together. They travel long distances in search for herds that might be in season, and if not, they carry on by themselves. Once in a while, they'll always return back to their natal herds and then congregate with them and then carry on their normal life.
Now that we have the rains, grass has become one major part of their diet. But sometimes when it gets drier, you find that elephants will walk into the forest and they prefer eating the barks of trees rather, and leaves on the trees. So to improve and get more nutrients. I'm going to hang around with these two bachelors, see what they're up to, because it's very nice watching them actually, how they're pulling off the grass. As I take you over to another location.
Yeah, elephants to more elephants, and I'm in the middle of the big herd now. And I have, different sizes. They've done really well to arrange themselves like that. I didn't tell them. Yeah, this guy here, I would give him a good maybe 4 years, 5. And then the other one is much older, maybe between 10. The girl over there with tusks, I won't mention, I think she's much, much older. All happy, enjoying a mix of different grasses from, red oat grass, sporoblus grass, star grass, wire grass. We have all kind of grasses here. Apart from them, we have some bully cousins trying to bully the little guy. You see that? And the little guy knows that older cousin is no joke, so has to get away. Yeah. It is nice to see this many elephants, this time and date, because this is an animal that is still facing a lot of threats. And at the turn of the 19th century, we had over 1 million of them plus, but at the turn of the 20th century, they were hunted almost to extinction. We lost about 1 elephant every 15 minutes. So to see these many is such great joy. I hope you appreciate that. I don't know what's wrong with that little one there, but definitely he's quite a bully. Yeah, look at the skin of the elephant, because we can see it, we can talk about it. Very wrinkly, it is normal, and that is very smooth for elephant. In that section there, it's almost 3 centimeters thick, and that's why when they move inside bushes, they don't hurt, the bushes hurt. It's so rough. They're very fine. They're adapted to living in those thick bushes. Feeding is part of elephant's life, and constantly, as you can see, that guy trying to fill up his tummy, he will continue to do that for as long as he lives. 20 hours of a day are spent munching and eating different types of grasses. Peter, how long does an elephant sleep per day? Comfortably about 4 hours or less, but it's not like continuous 4 hours. They will take power naps between grazing or browsing. You will find either they will sleep standing and When they sleep standing, usually you can tell because their trunk is much more relaxed. The stretch lying on the ground is very visible that it's longer than normal, and usually they are sleeping. They have very less body motion when they do that. And also they can lie down. Hence they are so big, they can lie down. They risk not being able to wake up quickly. It takes a lot of energy and effort to get up, so most of the time they will find an incline, a termite mound, a place on the road. It's much easier to lie, like they're on a pillow, and getting up is easier that way. I have seen young ones, lie on their mother's legs, but they are much easier. They can get up much easier, the younger ones. Looks like there is a movement. Everybody has to head in one direction, and that's what they're doing. And looks like I'm gonna head in a different direction. So let's take you to another location.
Well, these elephants are not moving quickly at all. These elephants have just arrived and they've spent a good few minutes giving themselves a good coating with mud before they start to properly head into the water. I'm sure the second one will also do that. A bit of a wind has just picked up. Strangely, it's been so calm, and just over the last 5 seconds, quite a strong wind has just picked up. Might start to see a few ripples on the water. I don't think that will affect the elephants though, because it is a warm wind coming over from the direction of the mountains, so it's a bit of a berg wind. As the wind descends down the mountain, it gains about 1 degree in heat for every 100 meters it comes down towards sea level. It's going to be quite warm tonight, so we might have elephants like this swimming the whole night long, which will be quite amazing. It's always a wonderful thing to be in the tent, because we stay in tents here, little dome tents, which can be quite shocking for some people when they first arrive and they say, what about all the elephants? Isn't it dangerous? No, it's not really dangerous. The elephants are quite used to the fact that there's people around, and so they tend to avoid the tents, and they don't do too much damage to the stuff. They break the trees quite often, but it's nice to listen to them. The canvas walls of the tent, my big head is in the way there. The canvas walls of the tent are allowing us to hear everything, so every splash at night, especially when the wind is nice and low, every little splash getting to us. This elephant having a little head scratch or scratching behind his ear on this big old leadwood right behind us. I do hope this leadwood remains standing. I know elephants have a tendency to push big trees over. This tree is going to be quite difficult to push over. But you can see there's another dead log just over here, which also has been pushed over in the past, which was probably also a leadwood or a jackalberry or something. Hoping that this tree remains standing though. He's doing something, look at that. He's got his trunk in his mouth. I don't know if you can see that very easily. So he tasted something just now. So elephants don't taste with their trunk itself. They can smell things. Oh, my head. They can taste things, they can smell things with their trunk, but they have to taste them by putting them in their mouth. So what that elephant did there was it touched something on the ground, and then it lifted it up and put it right into its mouth to have a good taste. I wonder if a female elephant maybe defecated or urinated there, and this elephant bull is not so small, was maybe trying to figure out her reproductive state. Well, he seems satisfied to move on, whatever it was. He is finished with it, and now he's heading off. He's going to head up onto the dam wall, I think, or maybe just skirt around the edge of the dam, but I'm almost certain that he's going to join the rest of them for a bit of a swim. Finak, the hump on the back of an elephant is just the spine. It's just, so there's one in the water which you can see nicely, the hump. It's just the spine. You can just see it there sticking up, and there's some good examples. It's just the way the shape of the body is. There's no like there's nothing stored there. There's not like a camel's hump. It's just purely the hips and the rib cage and the spine that curves over the top and goes down to the tail. They've got a bit of an odd-shaped body, but essentially there's nothing there. There's no special storage area. But it does help us to gauge whether they're in a good condition or not. For example, this one here, you can see the spinal column, but it's smooth, right? But if you see that spinal column and you can actually see the individual bumps of the vertebra, then you know an elephant's in very poor condition. It means that it's basically starving, which happens, not necessarily starving, but it's definitely losing condition. It happens sometimes in droughts. If they really struggle to find enough food, they lose condition. And when you're a massive elephant, you need to eat a lot of food. And if the intake of food slows down even a little bit, it can be devastating. That's why elephants will move huge, long distances in order to get food when they can't find it. And it's also why the role of the matriarch is so important. Because the matriarch has a long memory. She'll know exactly where the best feeding grounds are, where the best water is. Even in times of drought, she'll know. Let's not even bother walking to a certain water hole because by now it'll be empty. Better to walk, further to a different water hole in an opposite direction or whatever. Very, very important. And these young elephant bulls, it's also very important for them to have an old bull that they learn from. These are all fairly young elephants. None of them are massive. And they'll learn from an older elephant what to do. Wonders of wildlife, that's a great question. It's not always the case, but mostly a matriarch elephant will be related to other elephants in the group. Sometimes it's often the oldest, wisest, strongest female. But if, for example, there's an argument, and I'm sure elephants are prone to arguments every now and again, what might happen is a slightly younger female, the second in command, let's say, might actually end up leaving and then taking some of her siblings or family members with her. Here BK is communicating with the elephants in the background. So they threw a lot of dust around earlier. So we've got a lot of dust around us. But yeah, so sometimes the younger females who are also, getting to a dominant stage might take some members with them and then start their own little family. It doesn't happen too often as far as I'm aware, but it might happen. For example, Susan, the elephant that we see around here, she's so feisty. I've got every confidence that she would be a great leader for her herd, tackling any problems which might arise. Probably not with a cool head, but more with passion, the fiery spirit. It's actually nice just to listen to the sounds of them splashing for a little bit, because they are very active at the moment. See this one elephant in the front there is got a broken tusk. You see that? The right tusk is broken, and that's probably done when it was pushing over a tree, but maybe in a fight as well. But at that point in the tusk, there's no nerves. It's just the bone, the ivory. And so it would have been uncomfortable for sure, probably even painful with the nerves that are further down towards the base. The shock, whenever something snaps, there's a lot of vibration. It's not nice. But you'll learn to live with it. And we'll now mostly use the left tusk, even if it was a right-handed elephant at some point in its life. Just heard a bit of a rumble, just looking behind us if there's more elephants on the way. I don't see any, but can communicate from quite a distance. If you look at the other tusk, it actually looks like it's got a bit of a notch. A little bit of a notch in the end of its tusk. And that is probably where it bends things like branches and grasses in order to snap them. Oh, the elephant just chased a bunch of birds off. They were trying to drink at the edge of the water and it just chased them. Elephants can be so grumpy sometimes. Maybe it is a bit uncomfortable. Maybe it is really uncomfortable. So we were talking about must earlier, right? And this elephant has, I don't think it's in must, but we were wondering, how does must happen? Why do they get so aggressive? And now, not only do they get all this testosterone that builds up in their... Oh, there's my hat again. Not only do they get all this testosterone that builds up 60 times more on average than normal, but also there's the temporal gland fluid that leaks from the gland just behind its eye. Okay, and when that gland is engorged or larger, swollen, what happens is it puts pressure on its eyes, and it's very uncomfortable. And they say it's akin to a toothache. And that's also why elephants can seem very irritable when they're in must. Hey there. He doesn't seem in must, though. He seems super, super relaxed. Well, I mean, it would be after a good mud bathing session. I mean, honestly, if I would come back as an animal, I think I'd want to come back as an elephant. I mean, look at this. They literally spend the whole summer in the swimming pool. Could it be any better than that? Elsie, it can change depending on the area and how much food is available, how much space is available. On Pride lands, I would say the average herd size that we've noticed is probably between 20 and 30. So if there are, better food resources, or maybe even less food resources, and elephants have to congregate a bit more, you might find extended families starting to come together. You might find aunties and sisters that have maybe split off and made their own herds coming together and spending more time together, distant relations. Sometimes even not related animals. Sometimes herds will just come together because the fact that there's good feeding or water. These two are having a big fight. He had the high ground. Don't try it. See, the smaller elephant with the smaller tusks actually won that little standoff there. So it's not always the size that matters, hey? Sometimes it's how you use them. Those little tusks were quite effective at keeping the larger elephant at bay, especially when coupled with the high ground, now making an absolute fool of himself because he can't climb up the wall there. Oh, he made it eventually. Okay, well done. Just engaged the 4x4. All that hard work to look really tough. Now he looks super majestic again, walking up on the top of that dam wall. Seems like they're off though. I'm sure it won't be long before some more animals come down to Ndlovu Dam.
Welcome back to the Mara, where we have a lone hyena walking in the grass. It's that time of the day when they start or begin to be active. He just walked out of the den. We have a den that is not far from here. And I can see how she's sniffing around, trying to get some scent. She might be following a central. I don't know what she's smelling there. But sometimes hyenas, they will mark or leave a gland on the grass. So sometimes they mark their territory like that. You can see she's sniffing all the grass stems there. So they leave an anal gland that they always omit on that stem, and you find that that is how they always increase or mark their territory. Probably maybe the rest of the family members went through that direction. And the central left will be followed until they reunite. Where is the hyena clan? So this clan is not a very big clan. It's the one that a month and a half ago we saw them mating. So it's a new clan that is forming up. We have the Ololo clan, which is about 25 minutes drive from here. We have the Northern clan, which is about an hour drive from here. So this is a new clan that has not yet been recognized since, because it's a small clan. It only came here about a month and a half ago. And sometimes because of the movement of wildlife, especially during the migration, you find that hyenas will swap den. They'll walk from their original den going to another den. So this is a hyena that came with the rest of his family, the rest of his clan, to our place. I don't know whether it's going to be semi-permanent or permanent, but they keep on moving, returning back to their original den. They have a high sense of smell. They can smell carrion of food 4 kilometers downwind. He's picking some scent there, and then carry on. So as you watch this hyena walk through the tall grass, let me take you over to another live location.
Well, look at what I have here. A Tswalu cat. Very rare, very shy, but we're very, very fortunate to have a handful of these beautiful small cats that are very tolerant to our vehicles. Look at it stretch its neck, trying to have a good look at me, and the big ears, like a radar. They can listen to the slightest movement on the ground. Even a cockroach, a spider making a move, they will hear it. Tswalu cat. Not very common, but we are seeing quite a good number of them. I think there is enough rodents because mainly that's what they go for. Birds, insects, they feed on every small creepy crawly, and they are solitary. They have very huge home ranges up to around 40 square kilometers, so they can wander long distances. Look at this beauty. Yes, this is a very aggressive cat. If cornered, can actually bite, and the hissing will actually put you away. Yeah, and they can weigh up to around 5 kilos. Look at those teeth. And they normally listen to their prey in the long grass and stalking them, moving very slowly, pinpointing where they are with those ears, and then pouncing on them. They can leap up to around 4 feet long, and stepping on the prey. Usually the teeth apply the final blow to kill them. Looks like it's listening to something. Look at those ears. They do look like miniature cheetahs, but they do have stripes behind their necks. They have much bigger ears. They lack the black tear stain in their eyes, and so they're quite different. Actually, this is very beautiful. I don't know if it's gonna come out into the open. Looks like it has gone behind the bush. I don't know if we'll be able to see it again. I might have to reverse slightly. See if we can see it. Here it is, right in front of me, and looks like it's hunting. Wonder they can jump up to around 4 feet if forced. And with full stretch of their legs, they can actually swat a low-flying bird in flight at 5 feet, so they can jump really, really high. But look at its stalk. I don't know if it's gonna get something. Definitely there is something it's looking for. They more hunt for things on the ground. They rarely jump, but if forced, they will jump. Looked like it lost whatever it was, stalking there. In case they are threatened, these small cats can climb a tree to seek refuge, and basically all other predators will kill them to reduce competition. Look like it's a female. I've noticed that females are tolerating us more and more. Look at that. I don't know if it's gonna go that way or if it's gonna come this way. Yeah. See how it's built for leaping. Those hind legs are much larger and stronger for acceleration. How beautiful is that to see a Tswalu cat wandering and walking in front of us. Beautiful. Molly, how many of these are in the wild? Well, it is not known, and I cannot tell you exactly, how many there are, because I don't know. It is one of those small cats that are not endangered, but it is almost impossible to keep count of them. They are not threatened, they are not endangered, but they're just in good numbers. Like I said, I'm seeing them more and more. I think the habitat is becoming much more conducive to their lifestyle, so there is enough rodents, so we're seeing more. Yes, it is hard to say how many. It might look like it doesn't know what it's doing, but this is a cat adapted to this kind of habitat, moving and listening to movements. You see how those ears are pointed forwards, means that it is detecting, anything. Did you see that it peed and really sprayed that grass? Maybe it's a female. She's coming into season and she's sending a message to the males that are coming to season soon. Okay, looks like I'm gonna move on. Let's take you to another live location.
Unfortunately, we had no luck with the leopards, but here are the talamatis. You see this very small pan. This is exactly why it's more tricky to see predators in summer. They don't have to go to the big dams. Right here, there's just a small little puddle, just a natural wallow that's filled up from the rains. Now, I haven't seen the carcass yet, but let's just enjoy this lovely moment. Your shot got photobombed. We were very much looking forward to showing you the lions drinking, but the other lions have bombed the shot. There's lions everywhere. I haven't seen Darkmane yet, but I know he'll be around. And I'd quite like to see where the carcass is, because it appears that everybody's here, which means they've left it. So I imagine there could be some spotted hyenas around. We see the Talamatis almost on a daily basis, or maybe we don't see them, but we hear updates about them. And the Nkuhumas just haven't been around for so long. This is just a puddle of lions. You see that young mane coming in there. Sub-adult males are starting to get those hairy chins. Yet that beautiful shot of them all drinking round the waterhole did not go to plan. Anzi, yes, I believe the whole pride is here. Although I can't see Darkmane, I know he will be here because we had Darkmane last night and they all looked extremely hungry. 5 adult lionesses and 9 sub-adults. So I haven't done a body count yet, but I have heard that everybody is here. And they're a pride that regularly stay together. Every time I've seen the Talamatis, they have all been together. Now, of course, when a female is mating, she will separate from the pride to go off with the male. But they're a pride that are regularly seen as one unit. And the Avoca Coalition, the North Avoca Coalition, is a sort of dominant coalition over this pride. But it's really, well, it's mostly Darkmane that's seen with them, to be honest. He rarely leaves their side. That's why I know he'll be around here somewhere, because I think the females are very much keeping him alive. I don't think Darkmane's a good hunter anymore at all. That injury he sustained, he can move, he's mobile, and I'm sure he can hunt small things, but I firmly believe that he relies heavily on the females of this pride. Just like Tingana. So uncomfortable with the heat. Now, it's believed that Klangula and Nsele could possibly be mating. So we drove around and we drove around all the drainage lines. We turned off the car and listened. Mating leopards are very noisy, but no luck. So they're either not mating, or we just didn't get lucky in finding them. But they were seen together this morning at the site of a kill. Both lying next to each other, growling at one another. But it's believed they may mate. So we're going to stay with the Talamatis a little bit longer before we go off and look for that giraffe carcass.
Well, we are enjoying a peaceful moment here at Ndlovu Dam. As you can see, the water is still, there's hardly a breeze stirring at the moment. The elephants have all moved off and we're just going to enjoy a moment of peace and quiet. Oh, what's that in the water? It's a catfish moving around in the water, it looks like. Hear the rumblings Saw elephants in the distance. Probably the same group that was just here. Just communicating with the herd that was also here a moment ago. As they move towards feeding grounds. It's going to be a nice night, I hope. Nice and warm. Perhaps cloudy a bit later, but for now it's still quite bright. Hopefully a clear early evening for the elephants to feed as they head maybe towards Leopard Dam, the other side of Pridelands, a couple of kilometers away from here. With all the large females around and the males, all the youngsters will be quite safe. Shouldn't be any problems tonight. Not for the elephants anyway.
Talking about being peaceful, that's pretty much the sight we have at the moment. Just have a look at that. And you can see they're perfectly positioned in the shade, all of them. Quite close to each other. And then we have those two, which I've had quite a lot of questions about today. That male has not left the side of that lioness since this morning. And my guess is it might be for the next few days as well. Just have a look at that young lioness. You can see something's piqued her interest. But she's still a little bit tired. There was a hooded vulture that landed here earlier. And it is still a little bit further off in the distance, and I think that's what she's been looking at. And just look at those paws. You can see the one on the left, the left paw is out right. She was busy grooming the one on the right, but now she's positioned. Now that is a move that makes her ready to quickly get up if she needs to. Oh, and down. These are two of her brothers. And it's quite nice to notice the contrast here between the different colored lions. You see the young lion on the right. The belly's like almost a light golden color with the quite clear rosettes along the flank and the back legs. It's actually quite pretty, almost as similar to what a leopard has, only a lot dimmer. And you notice with the white ones, no ones. So while they enjoy this last bit of shade, I think we'll sit here to see and hope that they might get more active.
Okay, we're going. Welcome back to and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. When last you were with us, we had that beautiful leopard in a tree, and we've actually come across quite an interesting scene here. You can see there's two rhino disappearing off on our left, and you see the size difference quite prominent. So the one in the front is a female, and that is her calf behind. We had a good look at the calf, and we didn't see a second horn, so it's less than a year. I'd age it at maybe around 9 months. And as you can hear, we've got another rhino that's walking off to the right. And he's going to come out into the open now. You can see him walking out You can see the size difference if you look at the size of this rhino compared to that female we saw. You can see this is a fully grown male, and he's actually busy courting this female. So she's probably gone into estrus. Quite interesting, because the calf is still young, but females do have calves every 2 to 4 years, and their gestation is about 16 months. So she could very well be in estrus, and it would make sense because he does seem to be quite determined to stay close to her. And this is the courting process of rhino. So what he'll do is he's now picked up the scent of this estrus, and he is going to spend the next few days following behind her, getting as close as he possibly can to her, and slowly she's going to relax in his company. You can see he still has to give her about 15 meters distance. We actually saw her give him a bit of a charge just now, so whenever he gets closer than that, she's going to push him away. She does this by some high-pitched whining sounds, or actually just charging straight at him. And he's slowly going to get closer and closer until he can actually rest his head on her back. And once he's able to do that, then he knows she's comfortable with him, and he'll try and mate. So that's what he's doing at the moment. This is the rhino's version of courting. Amazingly interesting scene. What's lovely to actually listen to is the sounds of this rhino. You can actually hear him chewing. If we quiet for a moment, you'll hear him chewing, and the sound of him actually walking through these bushes as well. See that female's just walking in the bushes just ahead of him with that calf. He's just going to follow behind them, slowly just feeding as he goes, making sure he keeps them within his eyesight. Because he wants to make sure that when she's ready to mate, her estrus will actually only last about 3 days. So he's really got to try and make sure that he tries to curry favor with her within that time. And then otherwise it's about another 25 to 30 days until she'll go into estrus again. So that was quite an amazing sighting. Always wonderful to see rhino out in the wild, and especially a scene like that. It's always amazing when you see animal interactions, the females, the males, the calves all coming together. So I think what we're going to do, they seem to have gone off into the thicket for now. Don't see a way that we're going to get a better, probably not going to get a better view. So what we're going to do is we're going to check through these open areas out in Pinda and see what else we can find, and we'll send you to another live location.
Welcome back to the Mara, where we're just at the Mara River, watching these hippos as they're playing and watching each other. I can see the mothers trying to keep the older hippos away from the calves. It's funny because we're experiencing some rains, but the water levels at this point, was a little bit of marking there. So for dominance, bulls will always do that kind of behavior. They splatter or spray down on other non-dominant ones on the face. Very interesting. You can see that behavior happening again. So when they're out, they'll always mark their territory by dung showering or spraying down onto the ground on the riverbank. But here is just a show of dominance. The water levels have dropped drastically. It's interesting how these levels of water will just drop when we have rained. But it seems like up on the source, we don't have some rain, because sometimes you find that this river will fill so much that these people will actually avoid the torrent and be on the mainland for about 2 to 3 days. Beautiful sound. Even though they're known to take about 6 minutes in the water, you can see they don't always take 6 minutes. They can just pop up for air anytime. But the longest they can all days, or even sometime more than 6 minutes. But the normal interval will be about 6 minutes. But as you can see, they're just submerging and then coming up for air within less than 2 minutes. Neil, are they really the most dangerous animals in Africa? Neil, I'm sure they're considered to be one of the most dangerous because in places where we have rivers and lakes, we've had so much casualties because of people being killed or trampled by the hippos, simply because in the African tradition we have to go to fetch water in the rivers, and we use the hippo path to go and fetch water. And in due that course, we come across the hippos, and that can be fatal. So in other places, you find that people will be kayaking on the rivers and lakes, or even the big swamp, and the hippos will feel intimidated, sometimes tossing the boats or the kayaks upside down. So most considerably being one of the most dangerous, including buffaloes and even elephants.
Well, we found dark mane and the giraffe carcass, which is absolutely demolished. There is nothing left on this carcass, which is exactly why the females are at the water hole and the sub-adults. Ugh. But dark mane, well, look at that bulging belly. No hyenas around, no scavengers at all. I can't even see a vulture inside. And for those sub-adults, normally when you start to see older cubs, they will have very, very slight bit of a hairy chin, and only around 10 to 30% of their nose is said to go black, and they won't have any sort of mohawk once a male lion develops a mane, that mohawk forms. That will not be present in any sort of cub that's around 1 to 2 years. But when a male, a sub-adult, gets to around 3 to 4 years, they start to develop a small little mohawk, that tuft of hair that sits on the top of the head, and they normally start to develop a lot of hair under their chin, but it still looks very, very young. They won't have anything on their shoulders or anything like that. It's almost just like an extremely hairy face, and around 30 to 50% of the nose is said to go black. Now, when they reach what you would call a prime adult, 5 to 6 years old, everything changes, and their entire forehead becomes covered in a mohawk, and they look like they've got a mane. So from that sub-adult phase of 3 to 4 into the prime of anywhere between 5 to 6, there's huge changes. Most of the nose goes black, anywhere between 50 to 70%, and there's a lot of hair growing down the chest and starting to fill out on the shoulders. There's such a dramatic difference, and that's due to the fact that the youngster comes into the prime and there's a huge hormonal change, a rise in testosterone. Now, when you see the older adults, anything above really 8 years old, you'll see that their sort of jowl starts to loosen. They look older, just like Tingana. He's got a really slack jowl. And although the mane will be full, it'll start to thin. Their hair starts to thin, just like human men, really, and some human females. And normally they're a lot heavier scarred. You can see that they've been through the wars, they've been through battles, and their nose will be anywhere between 70 to 100% black. So this is very rough, but that's the normal progression of a male cub going into adulthood, and the changes in the nose, the changes in the hair, the mane. And normally an older adult will have hair going all the way down the shoulders. That mane will just be absolutely huge, and it will be black. Normally the darker the mane, the more testosterone comes into play. So testosterone also rises from environmental cues, from battles. Once that testosterone starts to rise, then the entire mane and hair and behaviour of the male will change. But nothing's going on with the behaviour of this male. Dark mane is a very lovely, gentle male lion. Lara Moore, nice to hear from you. Carnivores will eat other carnivores, absolutely, if they could catch them. We've seen leopards eat other leopards. That incident I was referring to earlier about Tingana, he killed a young leopardess and proceeded to eat her. A lion would kill a dead lion if it could. A hyena would eat young leopards, young lions. But it's just that carnivores are not so easy to catch. They're not so easy to prey upon, whereas the herbivores are. They're plentiful as well. If you look at impala, they're so numerous. They're everywhere. They act as a buffer species. That's the reason they're so successful in terms of their breeding strategy and their feeding strategy. And that's why they're the most common prey that we see out here. But they're so numerous, and they're the easiest thing for predators to catch. But if a carnivore could catch another carnivore, they absolutely would. Most of the top-level predators we get here are opportunistic. We see leopards eat snakes. We see leopards eat lizards. They're also carnivores. They're not mammalian carnivores, but they're also carnivores. So carnivores will eat other carnivores. It's all about what you can catch. And of course, zebra, antelope, they're sort of easy prey for species like lions and leopards. Becky, you're asking, why do males have teats? I imagine it's the exact same as human males. They don't perform any function, of course. They do not produce milk, just as human males have them. Evolution is not perfect, I'm afraid. Things like nipples in men, wisdom teeth, appendix, they don't have a function. Natural selection hasn't exactly whittled them out, but they're still there. So it's the exact same as humans. We're also mammals, of course. But they really don't perform any function. The blind spot, we also have a blind spot. That's another key feature or proof that evolution is not perfect. And mammal males with teeth is also another example. Believe it or not, fish actually have the genetic machinery to make fingers. I didn't catch that name. You're asking if the lions are starving, would they turn on each other? Now, that's a tricky question because I think it would really depend on the situation. Lions are social cats and they really need their pride. You may find a nomadic male, a sub-adult male trying to find a coalition, but generally speaking, or you may find a lone lioness taking some time out or seeking a male, but generally speaking, they need their pride or their coalition. It's not a high chance of survival for a lion on their own. They are social cats. So I think if there was a zombie apocalypse and there was nothing else to eat in the entire world, then yes, they probably would resort to killing one another. But I think in a situation where the resources is possibly just low, I'm not sure the lions would kill one another. In order to survive and thrive, they need the pride. That's their social structure. But they turn on one another when they're fighting. And one of the lionesses, we'll go back to them in just a moment, has a horrible injury on her leg. And you can see two very prominent holes that are clearly teeth marks that I can only imagine have come from another lion. So possibly when they were all eating this giraffe, there was a bit of a fight. I've also watched it in Kuhumas. And I'm sure it was Blondie fight over an impala ram, and it was not pleasant. They were aggressive towards one another, and they were aggressive towards the cubs. But they didn't kill one another. It's just competition for food, intra-specific competition. So that's a tricky question. I guess if there was absolutely no other food available and you're starving and you're dehydrated, maybe they would turn on one another. But ultimately, they need the pride. Okay, so we are going to go back to the lionesses to have a little look, and you're going to head over to Tswalu for another peaceful, silent segment.
And have a look at that. So that hooded vulture there in the background, which seems to be the odd 2 to 3 meters away from the head of that big male lion, without seemingly disturbing him, is currently busy eating that male lion's droppings. Well, I don't know if it's his droppings, but it is lion droppings indeed. You can see a flick of the ear or a heavy breath out gives that vulture a very, very quick reaction, ready to take off. And that is indeed a dangerous game they were playing. You can see even the female is completely unbothered. I'm sure they are aware. Now, there are 2 of these birds around. The one came in quite a bit earlier than the other, and eventually the other got drawn over here as well. And we're not that far from the riverbed, where these 2 are more than likely have their roost and their nest. You can see he's looking over to the direction of that male which has just turned. And on the lion side, there's not too much happening yet. And that kind of puts it in perspective how close these birds are to these large predators. You can see they're constantly looking around, quite alert. Inside that lion's scat would be a lot of undigested material. Maybe patches of skin, some fur, small bones, a piece of hoof, and who knows what else. Maybe some parasites, worms. And what an interesting relationship between these 2 creatures. A top or apex predator, in a way, its droppings is creating an opportunity for something else. And then there's also a bit of competition between those 2 vultures. Have a look at that. The one every now and again might move in the other's direction and try and push it off. And during a day like this, when the lions are spending the whole day within an area, they might relieve themselves a couple of times, and normally they'll get up, move a little bit away from the rest of the pride. And I've noticed that these hooded vultures, especially the hooded vulture, which in this particular area is usually the one vulture that I look out for when I look for any signs of carcasses or something. You often find that the white-backed vulture roosts in large groups on the dead trees, where the hooded vulture is quite a sharp bird. It's often the first one. Ooh, you can see just the shook from that lioness's head gave that vulture a fright. A quick stretch and then back to laying down. Jerome, this is indeed normal behavior for these vultures, although I guess it depends on what you define as normal. It's quite an unusual act to be eating the scat of other animals, but it is indeed normal, and I have witnessed it many times, especially around carcasses, where there are fresh scat of large predators. But yes, these vultures are the ultimate scavengers. They're very opportunistic, they're very sharp, they're the first at carcasses. And when it comes to the hierarchy of vultures around a carcass, they're often towards the lower end of the hierarchy. They often get chased by the other larger vultures. So they have to make up for that by eating other nutritional leftovers, so to speak. Cantro, what nutritional value could be in lion scat? Well, blood, proteins, I'm sure they can pick up some minerals, whatever they can find. Often they find undigested remains of something, which might be something like a piece of skin, big enough for them to swallow. But the exact nutritional values of lion scat, I'm no expert in. Well, this is indeed I think a lesser mentioned relationship between these predators of different kinds. I know hooded vultures have been recorded even killing the chicks of other predatory birds on occasions. So they're not completely harmless, but they are mainly scavengers.
Female giraffe feeding on some thorny vachelias with the beautiful light of the setting sun illuminating her mane. It's actually quite a gorgeous sight. There's a few zebras in the clearing as well. There were many other giraffes too, so it's quite an association of animals. Now, it's not unusual to find giraffes together and zebras. They won't be staying together permanently. It'll be more of a temporary association. These zebras feeding on the grasses, giraffes feeding on the trees, just looking out for each other. Not on purpose, but by associating, more chance to spot the danger. There's quite a few giraffes. There's at least 2 giraffes behind that tree right now. I can see the legs of one. Oh, actually, it might be just one. Is it 2? It just looks so weird with the neck coming out that side and the legs of this one poking out the other side of the tree. It looks like a very long giraffe, but that's a male over there, quite a bit taller than the female that we were just looking at, able to feed at the top of this tamboti tree. See how he reaches with his full length up high. It's quite a commonly seen thing, which is quite unusual, and I don't understand it really, but male giraffes seem to always feed, if they can, at their full height. You see that one's even reaching up beyond the leaves that he can reach to try and get to the juiciest, freshest leaves that get the most sunlight. And if you look at the female that we were looking at a moment ago, she's almost always stooping down, leaning her head down a little bit to feed on branches. So that's normally what we see, and I don't understand why they would do it. I mean, it's written in many books that they don't want to compete, and so the females contend with eating the shorter branches or lower branches and shrubs, but they're not competing that much. I mean, they're not like hundreds of giraffe moving about in a herd. It's just 2 or 3 animals here and there. So it doesn't really make sense. Oh, look at this one peering at us from behind that tambuti. Just gathering information. See, one ear held back, one ear forward, looking towards us. Just trying to gather information and figure out what exactly are we? Are we here to disturb his courtship of the ladies? Now he's contending to come towards us and give us his full attention. Hello there, chap. You are quite a handsome devil, aren't you? No wonder you've got so many females around you. Now you can see the height difference, quite significant. This male looks in his prime. Look how thick that neck is at the base there. And the shoulders, very strong forearms, or forelegs, I should say. So no doubt, a very strong individual, very good at pushing and shoving his way and using those nice, thick, blunt weapons on top of its head, the ossicones or the horns, to fight any rival males. Got a decent set of eyelashes too. You've got it all. He's tall, he's fairly dark, he's very handsome. What's not to love? He's really giving us a lot of attention though. Giraffes are incredibly curious. If we were on foot right now, the giraffe might be doing this. And sometimes if you go and sit now behind a branch or a tree, they'll come right up to you to investigate. Mark, you know, there are many different ways animals do communicate. Now, I've heard giraffes making noises before. Ooh, almost had a sneeze there. Bless me, bless me, bless me. It's not sneeze. So they sometimes make noises if they spot danger, like a sharp exhalation of breath. And they'll often even... What have you spotted? Oh, look at that beautiful giraffe over there. And they'll often even... we think, it's not proven, but the white behind the ears, like when a giraffe is standing like this and you can see the silhouette so beautifully. Now, they've got great eyesight, and when you see the ears are very much paler than the rest of the body, and so they're able to communicate at a distance, I think. I mean, it's not proven, I guess, but it's quite a well-known phenomena, the follow me sign. Look at this giraffe feeding on a sickle bush, which is very, very thorny. So, Mark, I mean, they don't often vocalize. Let's put it that way. They don't use vocal communication that much, but visual communication often. There might be some sounds they produce that we can't hear, potentially. I'm not sure. I've seen a giraffe only vocalizing once before, and it was exhaling quite sharply. And my tracking partner at the time, his name was Fani, a very excellent tracker at Ngala, actually. And he said, there's a leopard down there. And I mean, sure, okay, there's a leopard, let's go and have a look. And we went off on foot, and sure enough, we walked through a drainage line onto the other side, and there was a leopard who had just killed a duiker and was busy dragging it away. The giraffe had seen that and was now vocalizing its distress, I suppose. But that's the only time I've ever heard a giraffe make a sound, apart from maybe some huffing and puffing when they're fighting. I don't know if there's any other communication they make. Maybe there's like foot stomping and stuff. I don't know. Could be, potentially. Who knows? You can see the male's now given up on his investigation of us. Not completely, still facing towards us, and now doing exactly the opposite of what I mentioned that he would do. Now he's stooping down and feeding on the lowest branches. Why do animals always seem to do this to me? Giraffe, thank you very much.
The smallest carnivore in the low veld has popped its head out its burrow and in shock horror realised, oh my goodness, we are surrounded by the largest carnivore in the Lowveld. Can't believe it. There is just lions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 lions here that I can count. Possibly miss. No, that's the correct. Everybody's here. And the mongoose cannot believe its eyes. It's been frozen in time for about 5 minutes now. It's not left the termite mound. Now I can see the lioness with the injury. I think she's rolled over so it's no longer visible. I was hoping to show it to you all. It's quite a severe injury. And all these tawny bodies lying in heaps on the ground do not make it easy. There's a huge tear in the flesh and you can visibly see 2 puncture wounds. It can only be from 2 teeth. Now I think we are going to leave the Talamatis soon and go back and visit the Duke. Hannah, lions in general, the success rate is said to be about 30%. Now, that's a generalisation in terms of it will differ between environments. So, for example, the success rate of the lions in the Sabi Sands may differ to the success rate to the lions in the Masai Mara or the Serengeti, for example. So it does depend on different factors, but it's generally said to be around 30%. It doesn't differentiate between the sexes, I'm afraid. Whereas you have about an 80% success rate of wild dogs, if not higher. And for leopards, there's a study specifically for the Kruger, and it's 16%. It will depend, of course, environmental conditions, seasonal conditions, and, well, the numbers in your pride or coalition, that will make a difference to your success rate. But generally 30%. Look at this bear having a little cuddle. They're too hot and too full to fully touch. But they've got, well, one paw on one another. I'm still here. Just don't come any closer, I'm far too full. I wonder if it was a male lion that hurt that lioness. It has to be another lion. I wonder if it's been one of the females, but I wonder if it was Darkmane getting aggressive over the giraffe carcass. Ah, there she is. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. There's the injury. I'm going to do a quick scan around. She's just rolled over. It's on her right hind leg. It's not the best view of it, to be honest, but it's quite a deep wound. Yeah, it's not the best view. She'll heal, but it does look rather painful. I don't think these lions are going to get up for some time. They probably move long after the sun has gone down. They're that full.
Getting mobile of the
So we are going to leave the Chalamatis now and head back into Djuma to see the Duke. And you lot are heading back over to Trushala for another silent segment.
So there's a little spark of energy that's just started amongst this lioness mainly. There was some movement from the others, but she's been picking up something in the wind coming from the direction that she's looking at. Just have a look at those ears. You can see one ear faced in the direction she's looking. The other one turning slowly towards the other side. I heard some branches breaking. So it sounded like there might have been an elephant not too far from where we are, maybe towards the riverbed side. Maybe that's what got their attention. Oh, there's a yawn. That's a good sign. Getting a little bit of oxygen to the brain. Nesky grey, if I have the name correctly. Why are they a different color? It's because they have a recessive gene. This one and her brother behind her. They're from different mothers, but they have both, the parents have a recessive gene and the father as well, which means that there's a 1 in 4 chance that their coat will be white. Now what happened in their case, they're not an albino, where there's no melanin in the eye or around the mouth area as well. Melanin is what gives the skin the color that they have, which is a tawny brown color. But with them, the skin itself doesn't produce any melanin, and that's why there's no color within their skin. The eyes, the underside of the feet, the inside of the mouth, there's still some melanin produced, and it still gives the color of a regular lion. But it doesn't seem to bother them. Now we had a lion calling earlier on, and all of them had their heads up, which is interesting. It didn't look like they looked concerned. They were just looking in that area, so I'm sure it must have been another member of this pride. And you can see the vulture still skulking around in the background, making full use of this opportunity. Now, today was extremely hot, and due to the fact that these lions probably spent a lot of time moving last night, I think I got a question from Woofy Girl. Do lions ever eat vultures? I have never seen lions eat a vulture. I have seen them chase them from carcasses. And I'm sure if they do happen to catch one, they'll kill it. But I don't know if they'll eat it. They might, actually. It's a bird, and I have seen young lions eat ground-dwelling birds, so I'm sure they might try and eat it. I'm not sure if it's been recorded before. The likelihood of it being recorded before is quite high, if you take into consideration that these two creatures often meet around meal times. And if you have a look, that vulture's steering in a different direction, but the young lioness has just caught in view of it, and she is looking straight at it. Even though she doesn't look like she might be doing something at this point, she's well aware how far it is away from her. And look at that. She's carefully following the movements. I'm sure if that vulture is unaware of what she's doing for long enough, maybe she might try to chase it. It's almost like a game that they play with these vultures often, trying to hone their skills. I've watched these young ones often chase lions or chase vultures around carcasses just for the fun. And you can almost see that they look like they're enjoying it.
The setting sun descending below the horizon, just hanging by a thread, setting the sky on fire, absolutely illuminating my soul and hopefully yours as well. Something about sunsets just makes you want to stop and just watch them. I was actually trying to think of a fitting quote for such a beautiful sunset. And I thought, images speak 1,000 words. So we might just stop and enjoy this for a moment. Clouds are slowly rolling in from the north, and those clouds are going to be, rather from the south actually, those clouds are going to hopefully be bringing us the life-giving rain that we desperately need. There's plenty of water, but as you saw, Ndlovu Dam is getting lower, and the earth is getting parched again. I notice the grass is starting to wither slightly, so hopefully rain is on the way. Although, what do they say? Red sky at night, shepherd's delight. So perhaps fair weather tomorrow. And if there's red sky in the morning, shepherd's warning? Was it sailor's warning? I think it both works, to be honest. I think it's actually sailors. So hopefully there's a red sky in the morning. And that should perhaps indicate a deluge. Well, this is glorious. I think no more words need to be said. So we're going to be going over to Trish to also enjoy a silent moment.
So finally, they're starting to pick their heads up, twitch their ears. It's almost as if as soon as they pick their head up in the evening, it's like the flies start to become more bothersome. So that lioness there in the middle, the young one, she has moved over and started calling, and it made all of them move. And this male literally just followed the lioness. Just have a look at that face. It's almost as if that entire patch between the eyes and the nostrils are scars. And what a story it tells. All he cares about at this point. So there's something, you can hear some birds calling in that direction. That might be what he's looking at. It's been a long day of laying around, so I'm sure one by one they're gonna start relieving themselves, and then they might see some interaction. Leah, that's a very interesting question. Will lions leave their territory if their prey migrates away? Well, I think that it's quite difficult to say yes or no, but in some instances, yes. If lions are partial to an area where there is animals with big seasonal movements, that is very interesting. That is a young lioness. It looks like she was just marking territory there. And if that happens, that the prey does move off, then in that case the pride will definitely follow it according to their seasonal movements. What we experience here, like especially this guy and his brother, in the past, they do, as the seasons change and the rain season comes, their territory expands and they spend time in parts of their territory they haven't spent before or during the dry season. Dry season, they were concentrating more around core areas with lots of water. So have a look at those eyes. So there's an impala that's alarmed at the lioness that's walked away. You can see the others will come over one by one now as well. And let's have a look and see what the greeting ceremony entails here. It'll be interesting to see. She goes to the male first, but not really greeting. I think she's following the other young one. Probably more interested to see what's happening there. Quick stop to scan. Lisa, the two white lions are more or less around the same age, but there's about a 6 months difference between them, which for lions isn't a lot. You can hear that one lioness in the distance desperately calling out to the rest of the pride members that's not here. It's interesting with the young lions, especially the young females, they have that group instinct. And when they do get separated, you do find that they're the ones most focused on trying to find the rest, especially if there's some of their siblings that's not here. In this case, two. Cantro. Do lions make smaller kills too? Yes, they do. In fact, earlier on I saw one of the hooded vultures pick up a impala hoof out of their scat. We'll have a look. That male's going to get up and follow her now immediately. But they certainly do. They're sniffing the ground where she was laying down, probably trying to see if there might be any traces of urine around. But yes, they certainly do. They have to sustain themselves. They don't get big meals as often as they would like to, so they have to fill it in by eating smaller meals. Yeah. So now we can see the male marking territory as he's following the female. He's not too bothered by the rest of the pride moving out into the open and being shouted at by the impalas. He's still yawning. Look at his canines all chipped and worn. Signs of an experienced male lion, along with the scars. That sounded like the large lioness calling. I wonder if he might call as well. Her sister has not been with this part of the pride for a couple of days, and that might be why she is so keen on finding her. And the way that male's standing, from his body language, one can tell he is standing in quite a protective manner, and the direction that he's looking in is towards where the other young male was. He's probably just giving a quick glance to see where he is in relation to this large female, and whether he's also making his way that way. If he was, he would probably go and just make sure that he moves off a little bit further. So we'll stay here while things develop and see what happens.
We're back with Mr. T, the handsome Duke of Juma, who's a lot more awake now, I must say. It's cooled down dramatically. The sun is starting to set, and it's a relief after a very hot, sticky day. So he's still panting. He had a drink of water, I believe. And I'm just wondering if he'll muster up the energy to climb back up that marula and have another nibble on that extremely stinky carcass. Ooh. He's still a huge leopard. Mulwati was seen, or we believe it was Mulwati, in the Mulwati, believe it or not. You wonder where he got his name from. Oh dear. And again, skittish behaviour, heard the vehicle, it wasn't my vehicle, and immediately moved off. Now, we're just behind Tombeta House, very close to Gowrie Dam, and the Mulwati's not far off. So if this very much is Mulwati's territory now, then Tungana the nomad is in it. But he's not leaving any trace of himself. He's not leaving that odor fence. He's not signalling, hey everybody, I'm here. If a leopard was in close proximity because of their exceptional olfactory capabilities, Another leopard would be able to smell him, but he's not advertising his presence. And I just think it's very interesting that these two males, if it really was Mowati, are moving in very close proximity to one another. He's alert, he's listening. Can you hear the woodland kingfishers? Cheep. Chirr. Now that they've started, they will not stop. That's it for the rest of summer. Carolee, the skull of a lion is much larger than that of a leopard. Much larger. Even a male leopard, who is much bigger than a female leopard, lions weigh a lot more. They've got a lot more sort of body mass behind them, and their skull is much larger. Therefore, I imagine their canines would also be larger, just to fit that larger skull. Okay, where are you going, mister? Oh, I didn't expect him to get up there. But yes, if you do a comparison between the two species, lion skulls are so much larger, they've got a much more powerful bite, and therefore the canines of a lion will be larger. I don't think Tungana's going to go back to this kill. I think he's done. But we are going to follow him for a little bit and see where he goes. I've not seen Tungana walk in a long time. He's looking mighty fine. We'll just go up ahead and get some views of him walking. He's normally got a little bit of a stiff hip, but that doesn't mean he's losing condition. It just means, like the rest of us, he's getting old. Okay, I'll pull up here and get a view of him. Where are you going, boy? He's heading straight in the direction of Gowrie Dam, where the dam cam is. I wonder if he's going to go back north. But of course, gone are the days where we say, the animal has crossed over and we cannot follow. Because we can follow now. We can traverse Buffelshoek and Torchwood. Bird lover. I couldn't possibly say. It really depends. If it's a large kill, it's a large impala, they've hoisted it and they've fed the day before, then they're obviously not going to be able to eat that much the next again day. I really don't know. I'm sure lions can eat a lot more. They can eat about 20% of their body weight. So I would guess for leopards, maybe about 15%. But they can stretch their stomachs, and that's why they always look like they've got huge bellies, just like the Talamatis. And he's going to cross the dam wall. And I think we may say goodbye to Mr. Tungana, because I want to race round and see if we can catch the hyena den active. I'll give you some last visuals of Mr. Tungana, who's off on his journey across the dam wall. And as I mentioned, we are going to head to the den.
Welcome back to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. So we have come back to that female leopard that we saw earlier that was lying in the tree, and she's giving us a bit of a show now. You can see she's come down. And look at her posture. She's looking directly forwards. Her ears are forward. She isn't moving much. And there's been some alarm calls in the distance of impala, which I think's brought her attention. James, it's quite an interesting question. We don't know exactly which leopard did father her. We actually have taken quite a long time at Phinda to get relaxed leopards. Our females have become quite relaxed, but our males are still very difficult to see. So I'm not entirely sure who her father was. It would have been the dominant leopard at the time. Since she was born, we've had very few leopard cubs. In fact, we've had a lot of mating leopards, and we've had signs that some females have been pregnant, but we haven't actually seen leopards in the area, leopard cubs. And that's often a sign that the territory or the main dominant male in the area has been overthrown, and there's an influx of new males into the area. And for quite a while, there's not a specific male that's dominant. They're all trying to fight over the same territory. And with so many males in the area, with them coming across cubs that they definitely haven't fathered, there's a high chance of infanticide, and that's what we think is happening. So I think her father has probably been ousted by his territory, and that's what's changed the dynamics or the shift in our leopard population at the moment. We're hoping that there is a new dominant male. We've seen one male be mating with a few females at the moment. He's got a lovely big scar on his eye, so he's quite easy to recognize. And I'm hoping that he might be the one to take over the territory, because then we can start getting some cubs again. And in fact, this female was mating with him and her mother, who they share a section of the territory. There's a bit of an overlap. In fact, there's a prominent mountain range here, which actually is a favorite spot for these leopard to use as a den. And that seems to be an overlap of 3 different female territories. So hopefully there's a dominant male that takes over this whole section, and then we might see some new cubs again. Now she's relaxed. The impalas have stopped alarm calling. It's quite interesting behavior with leopards. You know, they actually sometimes go and investigate the source of the alarm, because if it's something like a cheetah making a kill that's caught the attention of the impala, it's very easy for a leopard to steal that kill. So she might even be sort of intrigued enough to go and have a look, but she's decided not to for the moment. She does have many kills of her own. In fact, it's probably also a bit of a worrying sight for her, because if you can hear all those flies buzzing around, but certainly all these carcasses are starting to create quite a smell, and any predator that walks within a couple hundred meters of this area is going to smell those carcasses really easily. And her being quite a small female leopard, there's a good chance of something coming and taking it away. The hyenas will scavenge what they can from the ground, and bigger leopards, like bigger females or even male leopards in the area, might steal the rest of her carcasses. So that's also what's got her on alert. Actually, it's kind of surreal. While we're sitting watching here, it's getting dark around us, and I'm literally finding it more and more difficult to see her. It's amazing how, as it becomes darker, she's just blending in so well, and you can just see that camouflage. The second she's moved away from us and is hiding that front sort of light section of her body, you just see the back section blending in so well with the ground. Jen, I've never seen nor heard of a leopard. I somehow doubt it. The diseases that we see in domestic animals and sort of, humans ourselves, I think they don't tend to affect wild animals too much. One, because they very much are survival of the fittest. animal that genetic predisposition sort of is generally killed off quite early on. And so those aren't passed on to the young. So I think a lot of those diseases, if they did sort of come out, might have been sort of bred out of the gene pool. And it even survived very long. You can imagine that these leopards have incredible need to have really strong bone structure. I think female, she weighs anywhere, but she's got to hoist up a carcass of an impala, let's say impala ram, that can weigh up to 90 kilograms up a tree, and all she's got is her foot and her neck muscles and her, writers would really struggle to do that. So I don't think they would last very long in the wild if they did actually get that disease. So what we can do her for as long as we can is getting dark quickly, but we're going to sit and enjoy this and send you to another live location.
No one's home. This is Aladdin. I've Ferrari safaried here just in case. I normally check in the morning. But I thought, sunset, dusk, oh, sorry. Our light keeps flashing on and off behind us. Rather frustrating, but it was worth it, worth checking. As I get slapped on the head by a branch. I'm out tomorrow morning and of course I'll check then. Now, before I forget, I know many of you are a little bit concerned about Olivia, and I am too, but she moved the minute the weather changed. The minute we got the rains, the overcast, change in temperature, change in air pressure, that's when she moved. And she's obviously mobile, she's obviously walking on her own little leggies more than we thought. And I think it's important to remember we don't know anything yet. Let's just keep checking. Mom's still there. Mom's still standing guard over something, and it's very thick. The bush is really, really dense now, so she could just be bundled up in her own little feather ball, and we just haven't seen her. If we can't find her, unfortunately, nature is nature, and it's going to break my heart. But I'll keep checking every single day, as will Trishala. I think it's just important. She could be there. We just can't see her. I remember last year, I'm sure I remember Sebwick disappearing for a few days or a week or so, and we just couldn't locate him. And then he popped up again. So please don't worry, everyone. I will check on my beautiful little owl every single day and update you. Hyenas. And I'm sure you all saw, well, those who watched the dam cam, I'm sure you all saw Tingana cross over the dam wall. I think he's heading back north. He's obviously done with the carcass. And I just didn't want to follow him. He's had vehicles all day. I thought it was a good idea to come and swing by the hyena den. But sadly not. Oh. Hippie! Are you a hippie? What made me want to be a naturalist? I'm not sure if I knew that I wanted to be a naturalist, but from a very, very young age, as many of you know, I grew up in Scotland on the east coast. Edinburgh's on the east coast, and I grew up by the sea, the North Sea, and I, of course, as a child, did not realise there was warmer seas or more pleasant seas. I just thought the ocean was the ocean. And I spent all my days rock pooling and surfing and bodyboarding and finding dead whales on the beach and dolphins and all sorts. And I just became obsessed with the ocean. And then from there, I just became obsessed with the animal kingdom. I was a tomboy, not someone that played with Barbies or dolls or anything girly, but played with animal toys and loved sharks. And I think my love just grew from then. And I think it's because it's a constant learning process. You learn something new every day. Every book or every paper I read is all new. New science is coming out, updates. We know more now than we knew 5 years ago. And I'm sure in 5 years' time we're going to know even more than we do now. I personally feel there's a lot we have to learn from the animal kingdom. We should really, really pay a lot more attention to animals and look after our animal kingdom. Can we survive without animals? I don't think so. We need to look after our oceans and our environment out here. It's pretty hard to conserve something when you don't fully understand it. So we need to keep learning, and I guess, hippie, that's how I ended up here as a naturalist. It wasn't a very direct path, but I got there in the end. Okay, so we will go over to our last bumble, see if there's anything on quarantine, and we're going to send you guys back across to Trushala for a silent segment.
Okay, so the lions have moved off or into a patch where it's very, very difficult for us to actually get a view of them. And the soils around this area is also quite sensitive, so in the dark, I don't think it's worth us following them. But on an evening like this, with the weather we've had today, it might be good to find something along the road. We are near the riverbed, so there's a chance for smaller nocturnal creatures, maybe some owls. And then, as always, if we're really lucky, a leopard. But at this stage, there's nothing that we know of. There was only 2 vehicles out this afternoon, so the lions were pretty much the only known animals that we've seen. Now, especially these big trees, the very large jackalberries, apple leaves, they make the perfect spots for nests for owls. Jackie, question, what is my favorite animal? Is the lion. I do like the lion a lot. The lion, because 99% of the time it doesn't do much, but when it does, it's just awesome. And then I also like a crocodile. and a caracal and maybe 100 other animals, but I'd say the lion is my favorite. So when we're shining the light at nighttime, we're not actually looking for the animals themselves or the shape like we normally do. So we're actually looking for the reflection of the eyes. The animals have a reflective layer of cells right at the back of their eye, or the back of their pupil, and that reflects any ambient light back to the eye. So we see that layer of reflective cells when we shine a light on it, and from that we can tell where the animal is. One of the craziest things is a couple of days ago I haven't heard or seen one woodland kingfisher, and at the moment I can hear them calling well into the night. So if I got the name correctly, Jolene, the different animals do have different color reflections, but we don't really go with the different color reflections. And the reason for that is if you move at a different angle light, then sometimes the reflection or the color of that reflection changes. So we go with how high it's off the ground, the way the animal's moving, and that's how we know more or less what it is. But with creatures like jackal, you have a red reflection, for instance, sometimes hyena as well, and then at other points hyena actually has a green, yellow type of reflection. But if we're really lucky, we might find an animal through one of those reflections.
Now we've done our last loop around quarantine, and sadly my spotlight doesn't want to work. It makes it rather tricky. But we have got IR, the infrared light back on. What do we have here? Oh my goodness. Is that what I think it is? I don't have a spotlight, but that looks like dogs. I'm going to turn all my lights off, everyone. We have just driven into dogs. We're not allowed to view them at nighttime, I'm afraid, but, well, wow. Hello, puppies. What are you guys doing here? Are you going to sleep on quarantine again? Now, I have absolutely no lights on. They are diurnal animals. The eye shine that you can see is coming from the IR light, not from any lights on my vehicle. My spotlight's not working anyway. So we'll let them go past us. They're right on the middle of the road in quarantine. Wow. That's the first time I've ever turned a corner and driven into a pack of wild dogs. And no other vehicle is around. I'm not going to call them in right now. For that reason, we don't view wild dogs with spotlights. Hello, puppers. Have you managed to sneak onto the property without a single human or vehicle realizing that you are here? It seems so. They're all in front of the vehicle. Would you look at this? That's my hat, sorry. So I can't turn my engine on even if I wanted to. I wonder if they're going to settle on quarantine for the night. That puppy just caught an insect. This one. Are you catching flies? Wow. We're in a bit of a tricky position. We're surrounded now and there's a dog going to sleep on the road in front of us. We're just going to let the entire pack go behind us and then we will move on, I'm afraid. They're wide awake. It's not as if they're sleeping, but I think they're going to settle on quarantine for the night. The odour of the silver cluster leaf blocked the odour of the wild dogs. The silver cluster leaf, oh look, it's going to chase that insect. Silver cluster leaf odour is so strong, I like it. In Scotland we would call it fusty, but it's a very old, cheesy sock smell. And of course it's to attract insects. There must be some insects that love it. But Beva, I did mention they're diurnal, so normally a diurnal animal like wild dogs that hunt during the day and sleep all night, we don't view them at night time. You don't want any lights on them. But the reason I'm not immediately rushing, if you just look in front of me, we've got a dog sleeping on the road. I literally just turned the corner and they were there. And I've got no lights on. So this infrared technology is incredible. And we use it here at Wild Earth because it means you can view animals at night time, even nocturnal animals such as leopards, lions, and you're not shining lights on them. I'm thoroughly against spotlighting. I'm sure we were just discussing eyes. Highly sensitive eyes, diurnal and nocturnal animals. They have very, very special eyes. They've got extra rods and cones in there, and they've also got that tapetum lucidum, nocturnal animals, which reflects light twice onto the retina, which means they can see far better at nighttime. And therefore, you really don't want to shine artificial light on those eyes. Even in Pala, there was a study done. Oh, I smell the dogs now. Oh, yes. Smelly pups. Even in Pala, they see well at nighttime. Not as well as the predators, but they see very well. And there was a study done that even if you just hold a spotlight, artificial light, white light, on them for just a minute or two, they're left absolutely blinded for 20 minutes. I can't remember the exact details of the study, but I can find it for you. Just like us. If I was to shine a bright light in your eye, we react. It's almost painful. You don't want to do that. But luckily we do have the IR, and that's exactly how and why we're able to view them right now, because we do have this fantastic piece of technology. I'm not really sure how I'm going to get out of this situation. Hello, puppies. Oh, James Richard, thank you so much. I was waiting until I heard your name. It's always good to hear your name. You're saying it's a Pungwe pack. Perfect. Hello, Pungwes. Oh, what are they dragging? Oh, it's just a branch. I think they're going to sleep on quarantine, which may be good news for us tomorrow. We're having incredible interactions with wild dogs lately. Not always the Pungwe pack, but it's good to know they're back in town. Now, as hungry as I am, we actually have to wait a little while before heading back home. They're very, very close to the car, so as soon as they move, we will, of course, head home. Oh, Trumbetta House, there you go. It must smell interesting over at Trumbetta. The Pungwe pack have been paid to advertise Trumbetta House. Thank you everyone for jumping on board. Sadly, this came to an end of another fantastic show, but please do join us tomorrow. Good night.